Welcome to RAW Confession. If you like crazy unbelievable stories, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss them out. Let's hop into today's story. I assumed my wife, Anna, would be pleased when I told her that I had the entire week off from work. As a heavy equipment mechanic, my job often requires long hours, so any unexpected time off is rare. Anna had planned a vacation with her sisters at Lake Wenena, where they usually rent cabins and enjoy activities like swimming, hiking, and campfires. Although I had initially informed her that I couldn't join due to work commitments, I was thrilled to find out I could get some time off and be part of it. "Hi, honey, great news. I'll be able to join you all this time." "That's wonderful, Mac. The kids will be excited, and I'm sure you'll have some fun too. If it's all right with you, I'd like to bring the dirt bike along. There are some trails up there I've been wanting to try. But only if you're okay with it. I don't want to cause any trouble." "Sounds good. There's plenty of mountains at Lake Wenena, and you'll have a blast riding those trails. Enjoy it." While Anna prepared dinner, I headed out to get the dirt bike ready. It wasn't a full off-road bike, just a street-legal two-stroke that could handle some off-road terrain as long as things didn't get too extreme. I didn't get many chances to use it around home, so I was eager to take it on the trip. By the time I was done, supper was ready. Anna and I had been married for 12 years and had 3 kids: Sammy, 11, Josh, 8, and Terry, 7. We lived in a cozy frame house with a hefty mortgage, but life was good for the Connor family. After dinner, the kids settled in to watch TV, and I grabbed a quick shower. When I went to grab my trail maps, I noticed Anna working on the computer. She quickly deleted something and logged off when I walked into the room. I acted like I hadn't noticed, pretending to rummage through the closet. She smiled at me and left the room. Once I was sure she was downstairs, curiosity got the better of me. I quietly hit the shutdown button and opened her email. As expected, there was nothing in the inbox. Anna was always cautious with her emails, often deleting them thoroughly. However, this time, in her haste, she hadn't deleted the deleted files. There it was. Change in plans. Mac will be coming up with the family. You can still come, but I will have Karen put you in the last cabin. We should be able to have time together because he will be riding his motorcycle. See ya." The message went to D. Thompson at Zebra. This was not good. As I approached the wall, I could hear their voices clearly. Anna and Don Thompson, the guy from her high school days, were inside the changing room. My heart pounded in my chest, a mix of anger, confusion, and betrayal swirling in my head. "Are you sure this is a good idea, Anna?" Don's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. Anna responded softly, "I just needed to see you. This weekend is complicated, but I couldn't let it pass without something." What was she talking about? I felt a knot forming in my stomach. I knew things weren't perfect between us lately, but this? "Look," Don said, "I don't want to cause any problems. Karen just mentioned the family gathering, and I thought it might be nice to see everyone again. But if this is too much for you—" No, Anna interrupted, "it's fine. It's just, Mac doesn't know about any of this." I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay quiet and listen. The idea that Anna had been keeping this from me, that she was hiding something so significant, was tearing me apart. Why hadn't she said anything? What was their history beyond just high school? Questions flooded my mind. After a few more exchanges, they both fell silent. I heard footsteps moving around, and I quietly slipped out the door, making my way back to the bike. I had to think, had to process what I had just overheard. It was clear this weekend was going to be more than just a family gathering. As I rode away from the campgrounds, the wind rushing past me, I realized that this was only the beginning of whatever I was about to uncover. One thing was certain. The peaceful weekend I had been hoping for was long gone. "I am really sorry, Don. I had no idea Mac would be coming today. I'll try to make it up to you. He will probably be running around on his motorcycle most of the time, so all we have to do is watch out for the kids." "It's okay, Anna. I understand. I am a little disappointed, but I am sure it will be great regardless. They are going to have a little sing-along thing tonight by the cabins. I will sneak down to the lake, and we can have a swim together like old times. John will see to it that Mac is kept occupied." "I don't know if I can wait that long," he replied. Silly boy, let's see. I think I can take care of you a little bit so you can make it till dark. I could hear the sound of a zipper and some clothes being removed as Don started to moan. It was evident that he was getting a __ from my wife. I listened carefully and could hear her slurping and humming as she worked on him. Finally, he started to moan and breathe a little faster. After a few coughs and the sound of spitting, Anna started to giggle. Okay, Don, that should hold you until tonight. I have to get back to my sisters. I sat there stunned. I was heartbroken, but what the hell did I expect? I was sneaking around trying to catch her, and I did. I guess I was disappointed that it happened at all, but I knew it was going to. I stayed in the bathhouse another while after they left, trying to figure out what to do. It was depressing as hell, and I hated being depressed. I didn't get any video, but I did get some good audio on the camera. I walked back to the bike and then took off on a long rough ride. It would be so easy to confront Anna and have it out, but it was just not my style. Actually, I didn't have a style. I was just non-confrontational about most problems. For years, I thought I had a great marriage, and now I find out I was just a provider for my wife and kids, a necessary convenience. I spent the better part of the afternoon surveying the area around the beach. There was a long grassy slope going down to the water's edge. The beach was narrow with rocks and woods on the side. There was a fire pit in the middle about 50 feet from the beach. Anna, John, and Cora had taken the kids on a hike up to a local waterfall. I took the time to collect and arrange a lot of wood in the fire pit. I put kindling on the bottom and carefully stacked up some nice dry logs on the side. I found some cardboard that I was able to layer on the bottom to help in starting. There were not many people at the site, so I didn't draw any attention. I didn't notice Don anywhere. When everybody got back from the hike, I took Josh and Terry out into the woods and we cut about 20 nice roasting sticks for marshmallows. I told them to keep it a secret for tonight. They were excited about it. I gave Sammy 2 big bags of marshmallows and again explained what we were going to do. Evening came, and everybody was gathered around the picnic area. We had a good supper, and the kids were winding down for the day. John was being very chatty and sticking close to me. She was asking me to help her do frivolous little things and being extra friendly. I kept an eye on Anna but tried not to be too obvious. Finally, the sun was down, and there was only south of town. I couldn't tell if he owned it or rented it anyhow. I figured he wouldn't be home for a while, so I broke a kitchen door window and let myself in. Don had a little computer area set up in his bedroom. I found a nut driver in the desk drawer and took the side off the CPU. After removing the hard drive, I looked around for anything else that might be interesting. There was a CD album type book on the corner of the desk that contained about 20 discs. I grabbed it and the hard drive and left. Less than 2 hours later, including another gas stop, and I was home. It was at a time like this that I was glad my pickup had a king cab. I was able to get my clothes, PC, and some household items behind the seat. I gathered up a bunch of personal papers and documents and went to a motel on the other side of town. I had to get a little show-eye because tomorrow would be a busy day. As tired as I was still up early. It took me a while to tap into Don's hard drive, but I eventually got it. Don appeared to have saved all the emails that he and Anna had written to each other. Most of them were saved in his documents file, but a lot was still in his mail. I started to read them but didn't have that much time. It would have taken me the whole day to read them all. I glanced at a few here and there to get an idea of what was going on. They were definitely having sex, but the emails were not filthy. I didn't find any place where they said anything derogatory about me. On the contrary, there were several remarks made that indicated just the opposite. Anna had commented on the great job I did putting in new kitchen cabinets, and Don replied that he wished he were as handy as I was. It was a little odd. Here were 2 people that were cheating on me but were not dumping on me in any way. I was confused. The CDs were another confusing story. There were no pornographic pictures. There were lots of pictures of them together doing all sorts of things, but not a thing that was dirty. In one set of pictures her hair was dark and short. That was when she was carrying Sammy. The next set was auburn when she was having Josh, and then long and dark when she was pregnant with Terry. In all the pictures Don was beaming like a proud father. That really hurt. It was time to get going. I made the usual rounds. First I closed all the bank accounts and credit cards. I quit my job and collected all my vacation pay and sick leave. I cashed in my life insurance policies and canceled the cell phone services. I made arrangements to have the utilities turned off at the end of the week. I was sure that I was going to miss something, but I did the best I could. I stopped by the family doctor's office and had a nurse take a DNA swab with instructions to send the results to my lawyer. Then I went by the lawyer's office and filled out the papers for the divorce. I told Nemor to give her nothing and offer child support only if the DNA showed them to be mine. At this point I held out little hope. I left $2,000 in the checking account for Anna and her kids. I said she could have the house but had to make the payments herself. I left 2 signed power of attorney forms in case he needed them. I signed 1 form to help her sell the house. Yuba City was a long way from Redding. I had enough money to support myself for a long time but knew I had to start working to keep from going nuts. I felt pretty certain that I left a few messes behind, including breaking and entering charge in Shill County. I had no idea what things I had skipped out on at home that I was legally responsible for and didn't care too much. I also wasn't very clever when it came to laying low. My car registration, driver's license and insurance would be good for a while, but eventually I would have to get myself updated and run the risk of being discovered. Bank accounts and employment could also trigger problems. Every morning gangs of men looking for day work would be gathered on certain key corners. Potential employers would drive by and pick out the ones they wanted, paying them straight cash on an independent contractor basis. No SSN were required and no forms needed to be filled out. A day of hard work was rewarded with some untraceable cold cash. I didn't mind the work or the poor pay, but I found that I was unhappy not being able to talk to my fellow workers. I started to pick up a little Spanish and things got better. I ended up being a regular pick by the Sutter Nut Growers foreman. They grew walnuts, almonds, hazelnuts and pistachios. The work was demanding and did not require me to use too many brain cells. I slept DW night. I borrowed a cell phone from one of the supervisors and called my lawyer. He had served Anna with the papers. She did not want anything from me but was insisting on some support for the children. She hadn't provided him with any DNA test results. I told him that I would not pay any support for somebody else's kids. Her parents and sisters were helping her with expenses until she could get a job. She had put the house on the market. If everything went okay, the divorce would be final in 4 months. Don Thompson had not turned a report into the Shill County Police. I guess I didn't have to hide anymore. I spent my evenings reading the emails and looking at the CD pictures. About 4 years ago, Anna and John took a weekend cruise to Nassau. Anna spent the cruise with Don Thompson and John was with another fellow, not John, her husband. I was able to find out from the emails that his name was Richard Witt. It was not a pleasant set of pictures to look at. From the pictures it became apparent that Anna and Don shared a cabin. I had loved Anna and would do anything for her. I had a hard time accepting all the new information that I was finding. How could I have been so stupid? Sutter Nut Growers had 2 big tree shakers. One of them was broken when I started working there, and today the second one broke. The company had to get a serviceman to come up from Sacramento to fix them. They were going to cut the workday short and send everybody home, so I asked the supervisor if I could look at it. It only took about an hour for me to get it up and running. All my amigos were happy because they got to finish out the work shift. I spent the rest of the day working on the second shaker and finally got it running at about 700 that night. Everyone else had left earlier, so the supervisor, John Foreman, offered to give me a ride home. On the way to the house he offered me a regular full-time job as an equipment repairman, which I immediately took. About a month later I came home from work and found a budget rental car in my driveway. John Mitchell, John's husband, had found me. He was sitting on the front porch and gave me a half smile as I walked up to the house. I wasn't really happy to see him but tried to be congenial. "How long have you been waiting, John?" "About 2 hours. I could use a cold beer if you have any." I got us both a Foster's and we sat down at opposite sides of the Formica kitchen table. "What would be important enough for you to fly almost 3,000 miles to see me, John?" Anna asked me to come and her parents sprang for the cost of the tickets. "Okay, let's get started. First of all, what are you trying to accomplish?" "I spent the whole flight out here trying to come up with the right way to approach this." Let me tell you something not too many people know about concerning John and I. Does it concern Richard Witt? Yes, I guess it wasn't as big a secret as we hoped. I just smiled. Mac, all three of the Spencer girls, Anna, John and Cora, wanted big families. It was important to them, and it was very important to their parents. We were married for 2 years and had no luck. The test showed that the problem was mine. I was shooting blanks and John was fine. We didn't want to adopt and we couldn't afford the artificial procedures. It took a long time, but we finally agreed that we would try and find someone else to get Kathy pregnant. I realize that it sounds bizarre, but we gave it a lot of thought. Richard was a friend from high school. John had dated him and had sex with him prior to meeting me. He was one of the ushers at our wedding. I liked Richard, so John and I met with him to explain the problem. He was reluctant at first and only agreed to do it with some concessions. Concessions, I asked. Richard said he would get Kathy pregnant as many times as we wanted, but he wanted to be able to get together with her once a month and one weekend a year. On those terms he was willing to help until he found a wife of his own. All 4 of our kids are Richard's. About 3 years ago I was best man at his wedding and he has not seen John since. Just how does that relate to Anna and me? The same but different. I assume you were going to explain that. I asked. Anna and Don Thompson had been sweethearts since junior high school. They had their whole life together planned out except for one problem. Don had a water skiing accident right after they finished high school. He could still have sex but could not father any children. Anna was devastated. The most important thing in her life was going to be her children. Don convinced Anna that she should marry so that she could have her family and that they would remain close friends. You mean, __, buddies, I replied. That's a crude way to put it, Mac, but I guess the answer is yes. I was listening very closely to what John was saying. Some of it sounded like the truth, but most of it was __. I decided to let him talk some more. Let him talk some more. Anna finally agreed to it but asked Don to find her a husband. He didn't want anyone in the Pottsville area, so he looked up a friend. If everything he said was true, then I might want to reconsider the divorce, but there were too many holes. I felt a lot of affection for Anna. We had a lot of great years together and I always considered us to be a team. Her apparent betrayal left me heartbroken. I would like to mend it if I could. I was looking for more information and more answers, and I wanted them to explain and improve things. I still couldn't believe that John flew all the way out here for a 30-minute conversation. The next day I called my lawyer Nemore. This is Mac Connor out in California. I don't hear from you often enough, Mac. What do you need? First of all, did you ever get any official results back on the DNA paternity tests? Mac, I didn't get a thing. I asked Anna 3 different times and she promised each time, but I still have nothing. I told her I would pay for the testing, but I don't think it made a difference. Anna's brother-in-law gave me a letter from the Schuylkill Scientific Labs in Pottsville that indicates that I am the father. Did you give them anything from my tests that they could use as a standard? Never heard of the lab, and I still have your results here in the office. I never gave them out to anyone. Unless they did their own DNA test on your hair or fingernails, I have no idea what they were testing against. I'll look into it. Anything else? Do you have anyone who could check out a guy named Don Thompson who lives in Pottsville? I can't help thinking that knowing something about him could be important. I realize that the divorce is almost final and I don't want to screw things up, but if I can stop myself from making a mistake, I want to. That should be no problem. Do I owe you any money? I asked. There is still a nice buffer in your account. I'll let you know if you get close. A while later, Nemore called and told me that Schuylkill Scientific Labs was a fake DNA facility and had been shut down by the state. He also let me know that Don Thompson made it through high school by the skin of his teeth. He was not too bright and had a hard time holding a job. He had just been fired from his last position as a fuel truck driver and was having trouble finding anything else in the Pottsville area. He was reported to be a nice person but just not too intelligent. That evening, when I came home from work, Sammy, Josh, and Terry came running up to the truck. They were all over me as I tried to make my way to the front porch where their mother was waiting. What do I owe this pleasure? I felt that the children should be with their father, and since you would not come back to Pennsylvania, I decided to bring them here. I have already rented a place across the river in Marysville. Why don't I send out for pizza and we can get settled down? The kids spent the next hour telling me about their trip across the country. They didn't stop much on the trip but saw a lot of new and exciting things. Anyhow, Anna was quiet and just let the little ones ramble on. I turned on the TV for them and they started to unwind slowly. Anna and I cleaned up after the haphazard meal. Mac, I am sorry for the way things worked out. I was hoping that John could explain it to you, but apparently he didn't do too good of a job. The day after you found Don and me together, I broke it off with him. It was stupid for me to keep the relationship going as long as it did. I knew for several years now that our marriage was more important to me than my friendship with Don. We were together for so long and we were so close that it was hard to sever the ties. I am sorry if that sounds stupid, but I don't know how else to explain it. I haven't seen Don since that day at camp and have no intention of seeing him again. I hope you can realize that it is you that I love and want to spend the rest of my life with. You are the father of my children and I want you to help raise them. I don't know what to say, Anna. You caught me by surprise. There are a lot of things I don't understand and maybe don't want to. It is nice to see the kids again and I hope I can help you with them. Right now I don't feel comfortable enough to want to start up a relationship, but I am open to working on it. That's okay. I understand your reluctance. I have a restaurant job lined up that I start next week in Marysville. I'll have to work evenings and weekends. I would appreciate it if you could watch the kids when I am working until I can get something set up. That sounds good to me. Are you going to drop them off or do you want me to pick them up? I'll drop them here and pick them up after I am done. The arrangement seemed to work out fine. Needless to say, on the first day, I took DNA mouth swabs from each of the children and immediately mailed them to Nemore. Sammy was opening up a little bit more than normal and seemed to be concerned about the relationship between Anna and I. I didn't want to get the kids involved in this mess and tried not to even mention anything about the divorce. A letter arrived from John and inside was a newspaper clipping and a note that just said FYI. The clipping was a picture of Don wearing a soldier uniform. He had finished basic training and was being sent to Bosnia for 2 years. I called Sammy over. Do you know this man? I said while I pointed to the picture. Sure, that's Uncle Don, but we are not supposed to talk to you about him. Do you see Uncle Don a lot? We used to, but we could never tell you that we did or Mom would get mad. Did you see him since I left? Yes, Sammy replied. Mostly we would see him at Chuck E. Cheese or someplace like that. Mom and he would talk while we played the machines and stuff. Did he ever stay at the house? I asked. Only once. That was a week before we left, the day before he went to join the army. Tell me about it, I asked. Okay, but I am not supposed to. He came to the house in a cab. He told Mom he had enlisted in the army and that he was leaving the next morning for Philadelphia. Mom started crying and hugging him. She was saying all sorts of mushy stuff. Josh, Terry, and I went in and watched TV while Mom and him talked. She was crying a lot and saying things that I couldn't understand. We all went to bed and they were still talking. I came down in the middle of the night to get a drink and he was not on the couch. The next morning I looked out the window and he was getting in a cab. Mom was still crying. That afternoon she told us we were going to California to see you. Don't tell Mom that I told you this or she will get real mad at me. Did your mother cry when I left? I asked. No, Sammy replied. Things were starting to fall into place. I don't think the newspaper clipping achieved the results that John was hoping for. I was looking forward to some way of getting back together with Anna, but now I had doubts. I would have loved to confront her with all the information I had and let her explain some things, but I couldn't force myself to do it. I guess I was too much of a coward to start an argument about fidelity with a woman that I loved. I had no reason to believe that Sammy had lied to me, but what she told me contradicted what John and Anna both had said. It seemed pretty obvious who was lying. I did what cowards always do. I was sitting in the Seattle airport when my cell phone rang. Dad, this is Sammy. Where are you? I am in the Seattle airport. Sweetie, when are you coming home? Sammy asked. Not for about 10 months. I had to sign a contract to get this job and I will be busy for a long time. Mom is really mad at me for telling you about Uncle Don. We are leaving to go back to Reading as soon as she gets her final paycheck from the restaurant. I think she is mad at you too. Sammy, I am sorry if I got you in any trouble with your mother. Just remember you didn't do anything wrong. None of this is your fault, and don't forget that I am going to miss you. Josh and Terry will too. I am sorry you had to go, but I think I understand. I love you, honey, and tell Josh and Terry I love them too. I called Nemore after Sammy hung up. The DNA results were back. None of the kids were mine. It was another lie from John and Anna. The divorce would be final in 2 weeks. I told Nemore that I would be sending support money for the kids as long as there were no further problems. He agreed to handle it for me. It is cold as hell in Prudhoe Bay, but at least the knife wound in my back is healing. That's the end of this story. If you found it engaging, please 38 to 38. Give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this.